Hello again, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of Doc Watches Wrestling. Tonight, it's Doc Watches AEW Full Gear for almost 4.5 hours. AEW Full Gear, fresh off of 10 days ago, their big blood and guts war game style match, which was intense and brutal and bloody and just an absolute. I mean, it was a great show, but the match itself was just a car crash of brutality. So now we're on to Full Gear in New York tonight, and it was a long show, just under 4.5 hours, as AEW is typically the norm. But so due to some HBO Max subscription issues and purchase issues, I missed the first 45 minutes or so. My app let me buy it and then didn't let me watch it for about 45 minutes after a good long stretch on hold and in a call with customer support. We finally got that figured out. But thankfully, my brother, Big Fat Rick, BFR, filled me in on what happened at the end of the 6-man tag to start the show. And then the Darby Allin Pac match that was the actual first full match on the show, filled me in on those. So for those of you curious, Takeshita Okada and Hichisaro beat the got beat by the CMLL team, which was to be expected, as Hichisaro took the fall. And then Pac beat Darby after Darby hit him in the head with a bat, from what I understand, in a brutal match. But again, thanks to BFR, Big Fat Rick, for filling me and keeping me posted on those as I was on hold, trying not to scream at HBO Max people. So with that said, let's get into it, as this is a long show and I don't want to take up your whole night with wrestling talk. So the first match I got to see toward the last 5-10 minutes or so of the women's 4-way tag match. Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa, and against Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne, and then the Babes of Wrath and the Sisters of Sin. Typical 4-way, just from what I saw. Lots of everybody in the ring spots, flips, dives, big jumps, catches, all that stuff. Eventually, Toni Storm rolls up one of the Babes of Wrath. Couldn't tell which one. I was still trying to get settled in at the time, and gets the pin. So Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa will get to pick their stipulation for the semifinal match of the women's tag title tournament that is happening. The semifinals, I believe, happen on Wednesday. So Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa get to pick the stipulation. And it was an okay match from what I saw. Chaotic in parts, and as expected and not hugely surprising, Toni Storm got the win. And then we move right on to the tag title match, because AEW has a million titles, and it seems like almost every match on the show was a title match. But we moved on to FTR against Brodito. So FTR, before they come out, they show some weird Stokely video. I didn't catch it all, didn't really understand it all. But FTR comes out, and they are still my favorite current tag team, and my favorite tag team of the past probably 20 years. I am a big FTR fan. Have loved them, again, like I've said before, since NXT. And when they were in NXT in 2014 or 15, whatever it was, a huge fan of FTR, and love what they're doing in AEW now. So the match, typical tag match. There's so many matches on this show. I'm not going to move by move every match. We're just going to hit the high points of these matches. Brody King at one point hits a Death Valley driver on Cash Wheeler on Cash onto Dax in the corner, which 3 guys piled up in the corner. I don't care, fake or not. There's no way that felt great. Brody King at one point goes to dive outside the ring. Stokely pushes Dax out of the way, and Brody King kind of hit Stokely, but mostly missed. That didn't feel good for anybody, and Stokely was not exactly where he should have been, so Brody King kind of had to just kind of block his fall there. We got a very nice looking Power and Glory powerbomb spot from FTR instead of the superplex splash. I believe it was Dax was in the ring hitting a powerbomb, and Cash dove over the top and splashed him after the powerbomb hit. Very nice looking. But again, only a 2 count because this is AEW and no moves really beat anybody the first time. Bandito hits the 21 plex on Cash, but Dax picks up Bandito into the Shatter Machine, but was broken up by Brody King for 2 because again, we got to kick out at stuff. We got to have breakups, tag teams. We got to have thousands of all this stuff all the time. And then, so towards the end, we get a tug of war spot with Cash and Brody King with the title. And then right at the perfect time, because wrestling totally isn't fake and rigged, Bandito gets hit with the belt that as Cash swings it. We get into another Shatter Machine on Bandito, or this time Shatter Machine from Brodito later on after all this belt mess happens. And of course, you're not going to beat FTR with their own move. Nobody wins doing the other guy's move anymore. So we keep going. And then we get a Doomsday Device splash, which is pretty cool. Another kind of a tribute spot, I guess you could say, from FTR. But Bandito catches, I believe it was Cash, and does kind of a backflip with him into a splash. That was very cool looking. And then we get FTR hitting a spike pile driver on Brody King on the apron, which basically took Brody King out for the rest of the match because, as we know, the ring apron is indeed the hardest part of the ring. And then we move on to the finish, and the finish comes after Bandito kicks out of several things. I mean, just everything Bandito kicked out of, right at the last second. Bandito's pulling himself to his feet as FTR stand there and watch him. Of course, then we get the nice gesture of the double birds to FTR, who pick up Bandito, hit him with the Shatter Machine, and pin him finally for the 1-2-3, making FTR the 3-time tag champs. This is a very good match. I kind of skipped over it with some just the highlight spots because I've got a lot of matches to get to and not a lot of time. But it's a great match. Again, I am not crazy at all about how many kickouts there are, how many near falls, how long these matches drag out sometimes just all the kickouts. But a good match, in my opinion. Always nice to see FTR win the tag titles. And obviously, we are headed to one thing and one thing only, whether it's next month or first part of next year. It's going to be Edge and Christian or Cope and Christian and FTR very soon. That's coming. I kind of thought maybe we'd see Cope and Christian tonight, but either way, Cope and Christian and FTR coming soon to a television screen near you. Up next, we have the Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal for the brand new and completely unnecessary national AEW national title. What's the difference between the national title and the TNT title? No clue. What's the difference between the national title and the Continental or Unified title? No idea. But we needed another mid-card title, so the national title it is. It does look very cool. It looks like the old NWA television title, so I very much like the look of it. But completely unnecessary title, especially with what they did with this match and who they gave it to. So just a real quick rundown of the Battle Royal itself. Number 1, of course, was Lashley. Number 2 was Shelton Benjamin because they won matches to earn that. So we get just a few minutes of like a minute and a half of Lashley and Shelton Benjamin doing some wrestling, just some almost like amateur wrestling stuff in the ring. And then number 3 is the least surprising draw you could ever make, and that's Ricochet. Ricochet comes out on the microphone talking his trash, which, by the way, he's gotten a lot better at since he turned heel. His babyface promos were atrocious. His heel stuff is a lot better. The smarmy kind of smart aleck stuff is a lot better. Ricochet runs his mouth for a bit, and the Herd Syndicate get jumped by the Gates of Agony. They beat them down for, 3 or 4 minutes, leaving them lay on the outside of the ring for quite a while. And then Ricochet standing tall, and the Death Rider music hits, and it's Claudio Castagnoli at number 4. Claudio beats up Ricochet for a while, tosses him around, and number 5 is Death Rider music, and it's Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia at number 5, so we've got Daniel Garcia and Claudio Castagnoli against Ricochet, and they just toss Ricochet around for a while. Number 6 is Orange Cassidy. While Ricochet's down, Orange Cassidy does the highlight spots, works with Death Riders for a bit. And then Wheeler Yuta comes out. So now we've got 3 Death Riders in the ring against Orange Cassidy. And as you might expect, they just beat him down for a while. And then we get into the kind of the lull in the entrances for the next few. Kevin Knight from Jet Speed comes out. Not huge on, have really little opinion on this guy. I don't really care much for him. Don't hate him, don't love him. But Kevin Knight comes out. He does hit a very cool jump spot off of the ramp, so it looks like he's jumping a lot higher and further because he's on the downslope of the ramp. That was very neat. Takes out Wheeler Yuta with that. Roderick Strong is number 9. He comes out, does the Royal Rumble run wild spots for a few minutes. And then number 10 is Mark Davis of the Callis family. Gets his shine moments, strong man to everybody, tosses people around. Number 11 is Mike Bailey, Speedball. So we get Jet Speed working together for a few seconds until with, I want to say it was Mark Davis down in the ring. Kevin Knight goes to pin Mark Davis and Bailey breaks it up. And then we get the tension tease just a little, just for a few seconds. Nothing crazy, no big storyline plot twist. Just, somebody wanted to try to win and his partner didn't like it. And number 12 is Matt Menard. I was like, okay. And this was the last entrant. This was the last guy to come out. His whole thing was to run in, fight with Daniel Garcia, and they both run through the crowd and into the back, and their nights are over. And then, so after, I don't know, forever, because this beatdown was hellacious, apparently, the Hurt Syndicate finally recovers, and they beat down everybody, start tossing, they go full Brock Lesnar, they go full Bobby Lashley on everybody, just start tossing fools around. And then we get more near falls, lots of splashing, pins, jumps, high dives, high flies. Ricochet hits a huge splash on Kevin Knight and pins him stunningly. Could not believe they gave the national title for the first time to Ricochet. I thought for sure it was going to Bobby Lashley because Bobby Lashley needs a title. That was my thought process. But Ricochet wins, and that's it. Like that was the whole thing. It was fun. It was a fun match. Like I said, a bit of a lull towards the end for me with some of the entrants, but fun match and a surprise winner with Ricochet winning. Yeah, not much to it. Again, we don't need a national title. AEW's got way too many singles titles as it is, especially with the addition of the women's tag titles and all that. We don't need it, but we're going to get it. And it was a fun match, and apparently it's going to be Ricochet for a while. So there's that. And then we move on to the feud that will never end of the conglomeration and the Death Riders in the Jon Moxley, Kyle O'Reilly no holds barred match. I thought Blood and Guts was going to be kind of the end of this whole thing because this has been going for a while. And then we get the Kyle O'Reilly, Jon Moxley storyline leading into Blood and Guts. Kyle O'Reilly beats Jon Moxley in Blood and Guts. And I thought, well, that's got to be it, right? No, now we get a no holds barred match. And O'Reilly, they make their entrances, and O'Reilly jumps Moxley at the bell, and we are off and running. This match got crazy pretty quick. We get some submissions to start, but eventually, and relatively quickly, because it's Jon Moxley stabs Kyle O'Reilly in the head with a fork, because that's what Jon Moxley does in Jon Moxley matches. And Kyle's gushing blood pretty quick. He got him pretty good with the fork. And then just a few minutes later, I have this in my notes as I'm looking at it right now. Jon Moxley stabs and tries to pierce Kyle O'Reilly's nipple with a fork. Something I had to write down, and that is real life, folks. He tried to pierce Kyle O'Reilly's nipple with a fork. Yeah, I'm at a loss for that. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's AEW for you. There you go. Several teasers throughout for the ankle lock on Mox. Of course, the story is Moxley freaks out and taps out because he's ever since he lost to Hangman and then lost to Darby with the tap outs. That's kind of been the story. And so lots of ankle locks, things like, the knee bars, things like that from Kyle O'Reilly to get Mox to tap. And then Kyle goes out and grabs a chain, and then we get some chokes traded back and forth between the two doing that. And there is a spot where Mox Pillmanizes the arm of Kyle O'Reilly, breaking it. or at least, they claim it could be broken. And then Kyle eventually traps Jon Moxley in an ankle lock with the chain wrapped around Moxley's leg, because we all know if a chain is wrapped around his leg, it hurts just that much more. And Mox taps out again. Very surprised at that. I wasn't sure Mox was going to win, but I was very surprised Mox tapped out again. This was a good match. It was bloody and brutal. It was what you would expect anymore from Moxley, and O'Reilly's more than game, so it was fun. The Mox losing streak continues since he lost the title earlier this year. It's been a lot of kind of putting other guys over, Darby and Kyle O'Reilly, and just lots of repeat. But I'm sure they'll have this feud continue somehow. After the match, Mox very quickly jumps back in the ring, kicks Kyle in his quote-unquote broken arm a couple times, and then leaves. And we move on to the next match, which, of course, another title match. Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. This was another intense, crazy match. We do get a video before... Oh, I'm sorry. The stipulations for this match. Of course, the TNT title match, but if Mark Briscoe loses, he has to join the Don Callis family. So kind of predictable what they were going to do. But then before Mark Briscoe comes out, they do a short video package talking about the loss of his brother and showing his family with his children and stuff, which Pro Wrestling 101 tells you that seals it, right? For the most part, unless you're WWE and you really screw it up, that pretty much seals Briscoe's winning. Although there were some spots in this match where they gave you your doubts. Kyle Fletcher comes out next, and this guy continues to remind me of 94-95 Shawn Michaels. He just does. Not that he's, that kind of worker, but Kyle Fletcher is that guy who's right at the edge of becoming a megastar. Kyle Fletcher is going to be a big deal. And this was another match to show that tonight. We get slaps and strikes back and forth to start. Very quickly, we move on to chair shots from Mark Briscoe. A brainbuster body slam type move from Kyle Fletcher on Briscoe through a chair, like through an open chair. I think it was supposed to be a brainbuster, but he turned a little bit, so his whole body kind of hit the chair too. It looked very painful. It wasn't exactly the cleanest thing in the world, but I guarantee it hurt like hell. And then Briscoe misses a dive to the outside and goes through a ladder. It was one of the more flimsy ladders. It wasn't one of the more solid ones, but it definitely hurt, no doubt about it. There was a spot Don Callis called Briscoe a crane eater. That made me laugh out loud. Don Callis was money tonight on his commentary. Don Callis is very funny. Big fan of him. Got to meet him at Bola a few years ago. Very nice guy. And then Fletcher throws Briscoe into the corner through a ladder. And Mark Briscoe is, at this point during this match, he was just leaking like a sieve, just straight out his forehead. Either he cut himself too deep or he actually he hurt himself for real. Either way, it looked painful. Kyle Fletcher sets up 6 tables on the outside with the openings facing each other, kind of like a bed of chairs. So something was coming, and it's probably going to be Kyle Fletcher taking it. Briscoe cuts him off and puts him on the chairs, but Don Callis distracts Briscoe. Fletcher jumps up, pushes him to the other side of the ring through a table that had been set up. Fletcher goes outside the ring, grabs a bucket of thumbtacks because they haven't almost killed each other enough. Let's throw thumbtacks down. We get the tacks. Kyle Fletcher puts the tacks in Briscoe's mouth because that's the spot we have to do now. Super kicks Briscoe in the mouth. And then a few minutes later, Fletcher takes a fisherman suplex on the tacks. Didn't look like he caught him too bad. I'm sure it hurt landing on them, but it looked like only maybe 1 or 2 were actually sticking into his back. Briscoe goes out and grabs a barbed wire table because why not? And another ladder. Briscoe sets up a ladder and goes into the ring, sets up the big ladder he just pulled out and a regular table over top of the tacks. And then we move to the outside after they stop that spot. And Briscoe hits the blockbuster, Mark Bagwell's old move, onto Fletcher through that bed of chairs we were talking about a few minutes ago. And then back into the ring, we get a froggy bow off the top of the ladder, through the table, in the tacks, and guess what? Kyle Fletcher kicks out at 2 because everybody's superhuman. And then Briscoe sets up the barbed wire table in the ring, but Kyle Fletcher has a screwdriver and on several occasions literally attempts to murder Briscoe with this screwdriver. Thankfully, it's pro wrestling and none of it's real, but like the stuff he was attempting to do, it's attempted murder. Let's just be honest. Stabs him in the head multiple times with the screwdriver. More screwdriver shots from Fletcher, and then a brainbuster onto the tacks, if I'm not mistaken. And then Mark Briscoe kicks out. So again, these moves they're not finishing anybody. They're not finishers. It's not making them a big deal. The finish finally does come when Briscoe hits an outsider's edge, the razor's edge, whatever you want to call it, off the top rope through the barbed wire table. Then he picks up Fletcher, hits him with a J driller, and he pins him. And for the first time outside of the ROH World title, which he held for just a very short time, Mark Briscoe has a meaningful singles title. It is the TNT title, but it's a meaningful singles title. It was a great match, a lot of fun, bloody, intense, hard hitting, rough, but great match. Just way too many kickouts for me. I don't care for the constant kickouts, the constant killing moves off. And it is nice to see Briscoe get that win. That was fun. And then we move right on. This show was they knew they had a lot to get in, and they knew the show was going to go 4.5 hours, so they're moving one right to another. Next up is the Jurassic Express and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander in the $1 million match. The winner gets $1 million. Of course, the story has been the Bucks are broke. They're in all these money matches, and they lose or they win the match and blow the money. So they're after the $1 million. And of course, the big story is the Bucks and Omega, while they're trying to win matches and trying to beat each other, they are friends. And Josh Alexander and the Bucks can't get along because Josh Alexander is trying to legitimately hurt Kenny Omega, and the Bucks don't want that. So lots of back and forth there. And the story early is the Josh Alexander and the Bucks disagreements. There was a spot where Kenny Omega and Josh Alexander were fighting in the ring together. Josh Alexander runs over to tag out, and both Bucks finally kind of drop from the apron to keep Josh Alexander in the ring. Matt Jackson goes to flip over the top rope to the outside Luchasaurus, and they miss completely. The timing was off. Luchasaurus wasn't in the right spot. Matt missed, whatever it was, but he landed flat on the mat, and that didn't look like it felt good at all. He got up looking like he was not very happy. That looked like it hurt. It was a very good match, but overall, there wasn't a lot of noteworthy stuff like in these other matches where there's crazy, insane things happening. It's a Bucks match. Super kicks, flips, kickouts, near falls. The finish comes and it's surprising for me. I didn't expect this to go this way, but they hit a BT on Jack Perry, and the Bucks pin Jack Perry, and they win. The Bucks and Josh Alexander win the $1 million. The Bucks take their share of the 3 duffel bags, and they go to leave with Don Callis. And then while they're walking up the aisle, Josh Alexander jumps Kenny Omega. All of this part was very predictable. You knew this was coming whether they won or lost. So the Bucks are standing at the top of the apron or top of the aisle, with Don Callis, who's trying to pull them into the locker room to get them to join officially the Don Callis family, of course. And the rest of the Don Callis family, the B-level Don Callis family guys, along with Josh Alexander, are beating up Kenny Omega. And finally, after, it wasn't very long, probably 30, 40 seconds of stalling, trying to make the call, the Bucks throw the money down and run and save Kenny Omega. And reunite with Jurassic Express and Kenny Omega. Everybody shakes hands, everybody hugs. And, the Bucks are kind of dumb for giving up the money, but it makes sense. They were saving their friend. That all checks out. But yeah, and that was it for that. They hug, they walk off. Kenny Omega, he's either a really good seller or he legitimately hurt himself in the match. Probably the former rather than the latter, but Kenny looked like he was hurting. And then we go to my least favorite match on the whole show. Chris Statlander and Mercedes Moné. We've talked before. I told you last time I reviewed AEW. I don't care for Mercedes Moné. I don't care if that's not a popular opinion. I don't care if eventually at some point somebody might watch this video and be like, oh, Mercedes Moné is incredible. Mercedes Moné stinks. She's not good. She hasn't been for a long time. She stinks. And she stunk in this match too. And I just don't care about her. I don't think she's good. I don't like anything about her. And then on top of that, Mercedes Moné comes out, and then Chris Statlander comes out and walks out of a spaceship. So I'm immediately just annoyed at this whole thing to the start. But so early on, Statlander falls out of the ring and hurts her arm. So there's your story right there. Chris Statlander is going to have a hurt arm for the rest of the match, and she does. But I want to take some time to focus on this match. Really focus on this match. Because I know my brother, previously mentioned BFR, Big Fat Rick, just is a huge fan of women's wrestling. Can't get enough of it. So I want to make sure we really focus on this match. Ricky, this portion's for you. There was a spot late in the match after a lot of just nonsense. Mercedes Moné does the 3 amigos, but instead she does like 14 for the belts, I guess. It was dumb. This is just a bunch of suplexes in a row. I didn't care for it. But this crowd, because women's wrestling matters, even though most of it isn't very good, stood up and applauded for it, I guess, because it was really impressive. It was bad. It was dumb. Whatever. I didn't care for it. It was all nonsense. Like I said, everything about Mercedes Moné is just awkward and forced. Everything. It's just not good. And after all that, after the suplexes and the Eddie Guerrero thing that she does and all this, she goes up to the top rope, jumps off with a frog splash. Chris Statlander gets her knees up. I don't get it. I don't understand any of it. But again, too many near falls, too many kickouts, so many in this match. So many, way too many. And after way too long, and then the finish comes when they try this weird tombstone thing where they go back and forth with it. I don't know, 5 or 6 times. It was crazy. It was like, what are you doing? Doesn't make any sense. Finally, Statlander hits the tombstone and pins her. Thank God. We don't have to deal with Mercedes Moné winning another title. Statlander pins her. Maybe this is over. Probably not. Eventually, Moné is going to win the belt. I have a feeling. But at least tonight she didn't. I didn't have to deal with it tonight. So, but this match did nothing for me. It was boring. It was a mess. Chris Statlander tried to work it with one arm. It wasn't good. I don't care if Dave Meltzer comes out tomorrow or comes out on Tuesday or Wednesday and gives this thing 5 stars. This match stunk, in my opinion. It wasn't good. Anyway, we're on to the main event, right? Let's just move on. But first, before we get to the main event, because this show has not been 4 hours already, we need to go to the back and do an angle. Let's get that done first. Although I will say the angle they did was pretty good. We get a Don Callis family video. They're all in the back. They're talking with Lexi Nair. And it's Okada and Takeshita at first. They're talking about the miscommunication they had during the tag match in the pre-show. And Takeshita tells Okada, of course, announces he's going to be in the Continental Classic starting on Wednesday. Takeshita tells Okada, I'm also in the Continental Classic. Well, then Fletcher comes in after that, bloodied up, beat to hell, talking about he didn't get the help he needed during his match, but it doesn't matter because he's also in the Continental Classic. So 3 members of the Don Callis family all going after Okada's Continental Unified International title, whatever that is, going after that. And that all starts Wednesday. So that'll be fun. The Continental Classic's always pretty good. So that'll be a good time. Especially with the story of, and I think, of course, they're building to it coming down to Okada and Takeshita, I'm almost sure. So that ought to be pretty good. And finally, and Samoa Joe walked to the ring, we were at 4 hours. Okay, so this is a long show. Even for me. Again, pro wrestling is my life. 4 hours is a long show. It just is. Especially when I know I have to film a video right after. It's a long night. So we get Samoa Joe and Hangman Page in a steel cage. New entrance music for Adam Page. Brand new song. Didn't really care for it. Liked his old stuff better. I mean, it wasn't bad. I just liked his old song better. We are 3 minutes into this match, and Samoa Joe is gashed. And I don't think it was a blade job, because blade jobs are normally this way. It was straight down the middle of his forehead, and it was bleeding bad. 3 minutes in. I will say, I've been watching AEW since the beginning. AEW is really closing in on early to mid 1980s NWA with the blood. It's getting really out of hand with the blood. Like, I think there were 4 or 5 matches on the show tonight where the guys were bleeding. It's getting really out of hand. Especially some of the blood is like really grotesque. So I'm all about it. But it's getting really bad. And just for fun, just a few minutes later, Hangman cuts his forehead too. So it's really just, again, out of control. So the match is what it is. It's a typical Joe Hangman match. They're chopping each other, they punch each other. Just a lot of punches and kicks for the most part. Nothing really crazy. And for some reason, as wrestling does lately, past several years, cage matches don't mean anything. The whole point of a cage match is to keep the interference from the outside, right? That's the whole point. That's why we do this. That's why a cage is up. Well, inevitably, the Ops come out, try to interfere in the match. Hobbs comes out, breaks the chain. The Ops are in the ring. They're beating up Hangman, and here comes Hook. But here comes Hook wearing a long sleeve orange jacket. Immediately you can tell he's going to take the jacket off and have an Ops shirt underneath. And what do you know? He gets in the ring, grabs the belt as Joe and Hangman are standing up, and he hits Hangman with the belt, turning heel, joining the Ops. And in a very surprise move. I was not expecting this when the match started. Samoa Joe hits the Muscle Buster and beats Hangman Page. Wasn't expecting that. Don't hate it. I love Samoa Joe. Big Joe fan. But wasn't expecting him to beat Hangman Page tonight. But he did. Gives Hangman an out because, everybody and their brother helped beat him up. But it was an okay match. It was good. Nothing crazy. But then after the match, when the Ops are all in the ring, the Ops, the 5 Ops guys, and then the dojo guys that Joe has with him, we're all in the ring. And the lights go out. They come back on, and they're all just still kind of standing there. Then they go back out again. And a video comes up on the video wall, and it is the burning house from, mid last year, with the Hangman Swerve angle where Hangman set Swerve's house on fire. It's the burning house. And then Prince Nana walks out still in the dark. Inevitably, immediately it's Swerve, but it was cool. Swerve comes out, do a face-off with Joe. It looks like Swerve's going to beat up an already down Hangman, but then, of course, he turns and beats up the Ops guys. Runs everybody off. Hangman eventually gets up. So at the end of the show, after being left for dead just a few minutes earlier, Hangman and Swerve are standing tall, fighting off the Ops guys after Joe won the world title. So again, okay match, nothing crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much the show. That's the Reader's Digest version of the show. It was okay. It was not their best show. It wasn't their worst show, but it was not their best show. It was okay. It was long. It was 4.5 hours by the time they went to black, I think, or just under 4.5 hours by the time they went to black. It was a long show. Good. The surprise finishes were good. The stuff you didn't see coming. I didn't see the Young Bucks winning. I didn't see Joe winning. Those were a surprise to me, like a legitimate surprise. Everything else I kind of figured would happen. But it was nice to see, a few surprises here and there. The crowd goes happy with Swerve coming back after a Joe win. We need fewer kickouts of major finishes, and we need, 3.5 hour show instead of 4.5 hours. But yeah, so this is AEW Full Gear. I watch it, so you don't have to if you don't want to. I will tell you what happened. I'll give you my opinions. And so I'm thinking about trying a few things over the next coming weeks. I will be releasing videos in between shows, I think, because I've got some time during the day. And I have some ideas, some stuff I want to try, and just to see if I can boost the interest and get my name out there a little bit. And I also have an idea for what I'm going to do for Saturday night's main event, John Cena's last match in December. Not necessarily just a full show recap, but I do have some ideas, some things I want to try. And I'm very excited to give us the shot. As you can see from the last video, I'm getting a little more creative with the editing. I'm figuring things out. My stepson has helped. Some other people have helped show me how to do things, the way to edit things. So getting a little more creative, figuring out how I want to do things. And so if you could, spread the word. Be a friend, tell a friend, as Pat McAfee says. And we'll see if we can grow this thing. I think my last video at a whopping 30 views was my most viewed video. So we're getting there. But I'm excited about this. I really enjoy doing it. And I'm looking forward to continuing on growing and trying a few new things over the next month. So appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you made it hopefully you made it all the way to the end. It's not a super long video tonight, longer than my Saturday night's main event video, but not super long. Hopefully you made it all the way to the end. I do appreciate your time, and please like and subscribe down there. Leave me a comment. Ricky, tell me what you think about those women's matches. And everybody else, leave a comment, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody you think might give a crap about what I'm talking about. And we will see you all next week, matter of fact, when we talk about Survivor Series 2025 and War Games. Have a good week.